have these life-changing experiences, the ones that really give you perspective and depth. And there's these little triggers that bring you back there. For me, going back home to Oregon, to my parents' home, is one. I'm home, it's 2008. I'm on a mini vacation for my full-time job in San Francisco. My father and I are working on the company we just started to develop to commercialize his renewable fuel technology, something that he had been working on for over 8 years, but I just started to help him out with. We had recently received a small grant, which was incredibly exciting, and it was a major milestone for the company. However, we're all exhausted, scared, and nervous. There's really an anxiety underlying everything that we're doing, and it's not related to the grant. I'm sitting next to my father in the 2 comfortable chairs facing the TV, the same chairs that we jumped out of when Obama won the election a few days before. And I'm shocked by how calm and content he is, having gone to the doctor a few weeks ago for a simple cough and walked away with terminal stage 4 pancreatic cancer. We had so little time, not just as father and daughter, as a family or business partners. This is one of those catastrophic events and really brought a sharp contrast to my everyday. It really brought the purpose of my life into focus, and I started questioning everything. What am I doing with my life? What do I want to create? How can I make an impact? It was 7 weeks from diagnosis to death, and after he passed away, I had to face the inconvenient reality that what we had started would go with him to his grave unless I could follow through with this mission and really keep the technology alive. In that moment of great loss, I was inspired by these ideals and felt a sense of true obligation to bring this technology into the world, since it has potential for such great impact. It became clear to me that I wanted my story to be one of how this personal loss not only changed the trajectory of my life, but also shifted the focus from our company from thinking small to big as part of a larger transition towards Age of Renewables. This is now why I wake up every morning, and this is why I'm here today. As entrepreneurs, we disrupt markets. That's what we do. And Henry Ford is one of the best examples of this for developing the Ford Model T and disrupting manufacturing for the automobile industry. It was not just the technology of the vehicle, but the business model allowed for his grand success. He invented the assembly line, ultimately allowing for mass scale production, low cost production, and wide scale adoption of the vehicle. A product can only go so far when you have the technology. You also have to have an effective business model, and his business model revolutionized production. We started to really dig into disruptive innovation, and our team started to wonder, with this energy market, it's already so large, it already exists, it's so large, and it's massive, and it's growing. So how can we make a major impact? This is an image we used early on as we were pitching the company. You can see the ideals really come from the peace era with sunflowers coming out and the blue sky and our amazing fueling station strategically placed in the middle of a sunflower field. It was it's a gorgeous picture, although it conveys an image of where we want the world to go and what we want the world to be, as opposed to the world we're in right now and the world that we are creating. It's utopian, really, and very idealistic. We were thinking too small. If we want to make a big impact, we need to have more than one fueling station in the middle of a sunflower field. We need to think big about creating a global solution. And just as Henry Ford had to overcome the problems with production, we realized the core of the issue with the energy sector is overcoming the complications with large-scale distribution. It took over 100 years and trillions of dollars to build the complex infrastructure that spans the world today. To produce the fuel you get at the pump, you not only need to find the fuel, extract it from deep within the core of the ground, bring that fuel to a refinery using massive infrastructure, pipelines, ships, ports, refine that product, and then redistribute it all over the world. And recreating this is really incredibly difficult and costly. There's no Amazon Web Service or Google app that can scale on demand. It's just not our industry. And many technologies before thought that they could actually redevelop this infrastructure, but they've had many failed attempts to really scale and disrupt these markets. So when we looked at the business model, we looked at it from a different angle, and our solution was to work within today's infrastructure. Instead of recreating the wheel, we developed our technology to work within the existing industry to make it cost effective so we could really ramp up without these huge capital costs and disrupt this market, ultimately having maximum impact with minimal effort. This is when we changed our vision from not only making a fuel of the future, but also making a fuel for today. And this iconic imagery was a little outdated. We needed to have a much broader vision. So we farmed it out to designer, and this is what they came back with. At first, I was shocked, a little sad. The blue skies turned into, emissions environment with all the sunflower fields turned into concrete highways, and you can see the urban environment in the background. But I quickly shifted my negative thoughts and realized we were finally thinking bigger. We went from thinking of having a model where we had one point of sale that was perfect in a small little community to a global systems approach. We had finally taken off our rose-colored glasses and started to see the world for really what it is today, using a first-generation technology, but a second-generation approach to the problem. We keep the same ideals, yet we're able to play in this humongous marketplace and solve existing problems we face. So there are many issues in the world, and speaking of issues, there's endless examples of environmental and health effects that are caused by the status quo. Growing up in Bangkok, Thailand, I experienced firsthand the effects of air pollution plaguing developing countries. Just spending one day in parts of China is equivalent to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. Unbelievable. There was one of the largest world blackouts in India, affecting close to 10% of the world's population just years ago. We can't forget about the horrid oil spill in the Gulf that effects still plague us, and one of the largest storms to hit our country caused by the warming of the oceans. We really have enough examples on how energy usage is affecting us at a local level, but also a global level. And unfortunately, these catastrophic events are what it takes for us to look up and see the clear picture. Just as the loss of my father allowed me to shift and to see a vision that was bigger and act with urgency, I would argue that we've now reached the tipping point for a global shift. We have the tools and technology and now need to focus on innovative business models to mobilize and take action. The progression of energy consumption over time, when you look at this, you can see that we use much, much more energy now than we used to. The global population grew by a factor of 6 over the last 200 years, but we use 20 times more energy. Unbelievable. The primary source of energy has also changed over time, which is probably good, I suppose, from wood to coal. And now you can see that in the 1900s that we started progression of oil being used as a major energy source. And really this problem's not going away. Thankfully, this huge market is inevitably shifting towards green energy, an area that was once given really little interest, little money, and now there's a lot of profit to potentially be made. And as a businesswoman, I see a huge opportunity. So where are we now? You can see that we're currently in the age of oil, not only from the graph, but also looking around at the current status of the environment. The next age is going to be the age of renewables. This little line that you see starting about the 80s is starting to spike up. It's growing at an exponential rate, and we are now there. I just heard on the radio on NPR recently that the Rockefellers, the oldest money, is currently divesting part of their portfolio from oil, from fossil fuels, into the energy sector. This is one example of how the times are changing. Another example is the ability of integrating new technologies. So with the integration of autonomous cars, we'll be able to really take away the power of fueling and put it and program it into the vehicle to make smarter decisions, one that us humans can't really make for ourselves. This is really the smart grid for transportation. This will allow us to integrate and diversify away from fossil fuels and typical oils to use alternative fuels that already integrate into the current infrastructure. This is going to create ripples of change. Creating a paradigm shift takes a world of people to really understand the urgency and be dedicated to the big impact. The success of the peace movement really spread awareness and empowered a generation of people. In the energy age, it's just as important for all of us to rally and transition green energy and make it a reality. The age of renewables is here if you want it to be. Let's make it happen. Thank you.